Hello, YouTube friends, and welcome to Pause for Orchids. My name is Luisa, and as you may have guessed, I love orchids. My love for these plants started about 8 years ago, and I've been hooked ever since. Today, I'm going to show you some bag babies I picked up at my local Lowe's and take you along for a repotting session. Judging from what I see on the size of these plants, I think they may be about a year or two out from their first blooming, but that's okay. So I'm going to go unpot all three of them and then clean them up and be right back. Hi again, we're back. So now all the bag babies are nice and cleaned up and they're ready for potting. I'll show you what they look like in a minute. This is not my first experience with bag babies. I have quite a few out in my collection that I grew from the smallest size bag babies. I think they're like 2-inch pots, and they're big plants now, so they've traditionally done very good for me. All of these have very good root systems, and I'll show you what they look like in a minute. And I'm going to go through the potting media that I use, where I get it, and how I mix it up. And here we go. So if you see, the root systems are very, very strong. All of these roots that I left are nice and thick and firm. So they do have very good root systems. And I believe all of them have at least one new growth. This one has this new growth, and then that one is it, and that is the David Matsura. This one is actually the smallest of the three, but also a really, really good, I'm trying to make sure I get it on camera, root system here. Everything is nice and firm and should be okay once they are in their pot. This last one is the Taiwan Gold. I think that's a misprint. I believe it is Tainan Gold. That's the one that I was able to find online. I didn't find a Taiwan. I think it was just a misprint on the label. But anyway, this one also has a really good root system. And this one actually has two pieces, I think two separate plants. This piece has a new growth, and this piece has an almost mature new growth, and then another new growth starting right there. So this is a really healthy one, the Taiwan or Tainan Gold. And we're gonna pot them up. Okay, now, so as far as potting media goes, I use Orchiata bark, medium grade. I believe it's the 1/4 to 1/3 inch pieces. Horticultural charcoal, sponge rock, or the little white rocks you see, leca, and again more Orchiata bark. How much I put in, honestly, I just throw a bag of Orchiata in there, and whatever lands as far as the charcoal and the leca, sponge rock, and it just, whatever ends up in the box, I keep it in. I keep everything in a plastic box so it's easy for me to work with. The plastic pots I use, they usually come without holes, and I use a soldering iron to make the holes. I find that these are just as good as far as the quality, but a little less expensive than buying them with the slits already in there. And then I use New Zealand sphagnum moss. I get everything I buy online on Amazon.com. So it's super easy to get, at least for me. And I find that the quality of this moss and bark in particular are much better than the stuff we can get at Home Depot or Lowe's. They last longer. I usually only have to repot especially my cattleyas, which are the finickier ones, once every 2 or 3 years. That's how well the quality of the bark keeps up. So unless they're growing out of their pot, once they're in for a good 2-3 years, for the most part, most of them. Fertilizer, I am currently using Osmocote. It is a 14-14-14 formula. It keeps the plants healthy. I actually just started using this year, and so far so good. Before that, I used to use the Dynamite. Both of these you can get at Home Depot or Lowe's, and Dynamite was 13-13-13. So it's got a little bit more nutrients, the Osmocote. And at the end of the year, I guess I'll find out how well it went with it. But it is an equal formula. I do a bloom booster about 2 or 3 times a year, and I use Jax for that. And that's pretty much it. Between the Osmocote and 2 or 3 times a year of Jax, they bloom really well for me. I haven't had a plant not bloom with that method yet. And they seem to enjoy it because they get fed every time I water or it rains. Because if the plant is in a pot, the Osmocote is inside the pot, and every time it gets wet, it releases nutrients. If it's a Vanda, like my Vandas are, most of them are roots. The roots are free, so I have a little baggie of Osmocote hanging from them. So again, every time it rains or every time I water, they get fed. Okay, so let's pot these up. I always start with a little bit of sphagnum moss at the bottom of the pot, which helps them with maintaining that humidity inside the pot. That helps promote root growth and allows them a little bit of time to adjust to the new setup. Once I have my spag in, and all this I have pre-mixed. It's inside of a box that I keep next to my work area. It's all pre-mixed except for the sphagnum moss, which is on its own, obviously. But it is the bark and charcoal and everything else is pre-mixed. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the middle because I see that there is a possibility of a new growth here, and I want that to happen so that I can have 2 directions of growth. So it's gonna go in the middle. I'm gonna get a little clip and clip that on there. Sometimes I use zip ties, but it kind of depends on how new the orchid is and where everything is at as far as the growths and all that stuff. bamboo skewer helps me make sure that I can get that media in there as much as I can without damaging the roots that are there too much. So I usually stockpile my skewers, get them at Publix, anywhere they sell stuff for barbecue. You can get these skewers. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I am fairly new at this YouTubing thing, so constructive criticism and suggestions are always welcome. There we go. Alright, now I'm going to put some Osmocote in there, and I just throw a bunch of beads, and I don't tend to measure a whole lot of anything. And cats are fairly hungry, so I'm not too worried. There it is. I'm going to cut the excess stick off, so I can always use the other part for another plant. And that is it. She is nicely and potted up. I hope all that was on camera. And on to the next one. Alright, here we go. Sphagnum moss is already at the bottom of the pot. And this one's going to be a little tricky because I've got the two pieces that are going to go in the same pot. So I think I'm going to have to put the bigger one in first. Should fit. The pot they came in was quite a bit smaller than this. Arranging those the roots a little bit sometimes helps. We've got it. Put some media in there. Start moving it up a little bit. That was a rock. Another one. And we got little clips. There we go. Let's keep going. A little bit more media. I think I'm gonna add a second stake to this, just because this is leaning a little too much for my taste. And they're still together in the pot, which means they will eventually gravitate to one another, but stay a little sturdier. Let's put in some Osmocote. And there we have it. Let's cut this. And there is the second one. Back. And we'll be back with the third one. Isn't she pretty? She looks so pretty. And she's got two directions of growth, one here and the other one over here, a little more mature. She looks great. Okay, so I started this one off camera just because I figured you've already seen me do two, and why worry about one more, right? The process is pretty much the same. I'm just finishing it up now. I'm trying to make sure that I can get as much of this media down into the roots so that there are very few air pockets. Or as few as possible. Sometimes the mixture that I use for media makes it difficult also because it has so many different textures and shapes that it can be a little problematic trying to get it to go where it needs to go. But that's okay. I have the patience. It's all good. Just going to put a little bit of Osmocote and we will be done. I think the new growth needs a little help, so I'm going to go ahead and put that extra stake on this one too. I think we're good. some coat. There we are. All done. Cut the extra piece of steak off. And this is going to be the back of my plant. And there they are. All nice and potted up in nice fresh pots. Fresh media, fertilizer, and all set up for success. They'll be perfectly happy, I believe, in these pots, and they will then go into a decorative pot and join their cousins out in the orchid garden. And here are the bad babies inside their forever homes, or at least for the next 2 or 3 years. Hopefully they'll take off and do really well. They're set up for success, so I don't see why they wouldn't. Please make sure if you like this video that you give it a thumbs up, you subscribe, and you hit that notification bell so that you know when to come back. Thanks for watching. Bye!